Good morning, everyone, or almost afternoon. I am Amanda Herr. I'm from Digital Desk, and this is Coffee and Conversions. So, this is something that I do. I'm going to try to do it a little bit more consistently, but it's something where I get some questions about certain things from my clients, and it's just helpful if I answer those questions for everyone. So, I'm just checking real quick to make sure that I am indeed live, which I am. Yes. And we are probably going to be joined today by my coworker, Ginny, who is my Bernedoodle puppy. She doesn't really know the meaning of space. So anyway, you'll see her on today's broadcast as well as probably every other broadcast too. And there she is. So that's Ginny, and she's here to help us with your digital marketing questions as well. So first of all, I just wanted to thank you for joining me and let you know that if you do have a question while I'm talking, you can put the question in the chat and I will be able to see it. I'll be checking it periodically just to see. So feel free to say hello as well and let me know that you're here so that I know that I'm not just talking to myself today. And to begin with, I wanted to talk about a question that has come up actually quite a bit over the last few weeks with some of my clients, and it's about their host for their website, as well as whether or not their website is being backed up. So everyone tends to think that their website is fine as long as it shows up when you search for it or if it shows up when you go to it. And relatively, that's true. But what can happen is when we make a wholesale change, or maybe a plugin updates on its own, or something happens in the internet world and our website is then lost, if we don't have a backup of the website, then we've lost everything. And many times you think that you have a backup or that your host is backing you up, and it's unfortunately not. So it's something that we found has happened quite a bit with some of my clients because, again, they thought that they were having their host back up their website. So Ginny wants to make a point about that as well. I was going to take her and put her out of the room, but look at that face. Look at that face. And plus, I can't trust her if I put her outside the room. So it's better to know your enemy. Anyway, so let's talk about backing up your website. It's important to have a backup of your website, of the most current website. So if you've made a lot of changes, you should back it up. But I also like backing it up every single day. I think that that's important because, again, there could be updates to your website that you don't know about that somebody else has made, or update to a plugin that WordPress has made that you don't know about. So you want to make sure that you have a very recent update, if not daily, weekly, if not weekly, maybe once a month, but definitely, I would say more than once a month, but definitely make sure you have it. So how do you update or back up your website? So the backup of the website can happen in many different ways. Basically, you can trust your host to do it, which some hosts do back up your website daily for you. Or you can do it yourself manually. So one of the things to know, though, is that your host is not going to necessarily back up your website as part of your services. That could be an extra cost, or they may not do it at all. So that's scary, because if you do lose your website, what happens then? And then also, what happens if you're in your website and you're making changes and you make a mistake and everything blows up, which can happen. It happens to the best of us. And you don't have a backup of your website. What happens then? So it's really important to pay a little bit of attention to who's hosting your website. So what is a host? So that's one of the things, the basics. A host is, think about it this way, especially if you have a WordPress site, but think about it this way. A host is the land that you build your website on. So if I'm going to use a house type of example, the host is the land that you build your house on. And then the things like WordPress, or even I would say with Squarespace and Wix and Weebly, they're actually the so I would call that your, okay, my dog is driving me nuts. I would actually call that the foundation. So it's the house's foundation. And remind me next week to leave her outside the room. Here we go. Okay, so we're gonna just let her wreak havoc on the house. So the WordPress, Squarespace, Weebly, Wix, they're like the foundation of the house. So the land is the host. Then you build your house foundation on the land, right? And then whatever you use, if you're using something like a Divi builder in WordPress or Beaver builder or something like that, or something that's kind of like the language that you're able to use, it makes it a little bit easier rather than coding. That would be like the walls and the structure of the house. So your host, and what we're talking about right now, is the land. Okay, so you can't build a house unless you have land. Okay, so that's the host, and they keep your house or your website safe. So with that said, the host itself, like a GoDaddy can host your website, SiteGround, who I love, can host your website. Those hosts may or may not be taking a backup of your website. So what's interesting is GoDaddy, while they say they're wonderful at hosting and they're the place to build your website and all of that, they actually don't take a backup of your website for you. You actually have to manually do that for yourself. Oh my God, this is hilarious. I think this should be on America's Funniest Lives. So you actually have to do that yourself, so manually. And that's scary because you might be thinking they're doing it for you. And then, you know, you're on GoDaddy, you think, hey, it's the best place to have a website. That's what all the commercials have told me. And the next thing you know, your website blows up and there's no copy. SiteGround, on the other hand, which is who I love to use, takes a backup of your website every 24 hours. So there is a copy of your website out there so that if you do something wrong or if something goes wrong, you just go to yesterday's copy. And it's fantastic. So SiteGround is SiteGround. It's all one word. Fantastic. I'm not telling you that just because I have an affiliate code. I'm telling you that because it's the best place to go, regardless if you use my code or not. So it's just extremely important to know if you have a backup. Now, Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, I don't know how often they back up your website. They are all in one encompassing services. So Squarespace is going to host your website and give you the everything as far as the scaffolding, the foundation. Your whole house is right there in Squarespace. You just have less choices that you can make as far as the way your house looks. But they're everything. So I would check if you have your website on Squarespace, Shopify, or any of those others, if they are actually backing things up for you. So another question that has come up recently that I wanted to address is, whether or not you should do Google Ads. So people use Google Ads as just kind of like an innocuous thing. So basically, what I've been asked is, should I do Google Ads? Meaning they're usually talking about search ads. They're not talking about display ads. And so the answer to that is, what are your goals? So if your goals are to get people who are in market for your services, then absolutely, Google Ads makes sense. But if your goals aren't necessarily lower funnel, like needing to get people in line right away, then it's not something that you need to do right away. You might want to try to do some branding. So it's really a strategic question. And one thing that people skip over a lot is strategy. They stop thinking strategically and they just start thinking, oh, I need to make a sale. And I'm actually going to stop this live and delete it because this is terrible. Oh.